Hello, internet friends. My name is Bay. Welcome back to the Shadowlands Alpha. First pass coverage, first impressions, look at the Assassination Rogue. All right. As I always disclaimer, rogue videos, I'm not a rogue player. I am the worst at this game at anything with energy and combo points because I have the least amount of time playing it. So let's try to, get beyond the, cringe, watch this dungeon video and he kept messing up his slice and dice timing. Like, okay, I don't care, man. All right, like, you're going to be better at me. I know you're better at me than this. It's just that we've talked at length. I actually did more testing than I thought I was going to do today for Assassination Rogue. And of course, all of that testing is put together in the channel guide down below the fold here in the description box, as well as over on my Twitch channel. Just hit ! guide in chat, GUIDE. Got the dungeon run in there, got the overall testing VOD in there. So if you want more of what was going on, the whole conversation, you can see that. Of course, I did 2 different builds in the dungeon run. We ran the new dungeon, the vampire dungeon, and it's pretty good. The dungeon design is very different. A lot of the discussion was having about bleed versus poison build, or all this stuff about how mobs don't last long enough and all those other things, right? So what builds can be useful for assassination or other specs, bleed dot builds. Don't have enough time for dots to tick, so everything dies so fast. We'll get into that quite heavily. But I'm also wearing an appropriate shirt for doing rogue testing, at least for the starting one. Shout out to Telius and Evitel, because, this is, it's appropriate for me testing a spec I don't have a lot of understanding of, but I absorb information and share it. And, of course, if you are absorbing information and sharing it in your own way, or at least being on the other side of the absorb, check your Twitch Prime subs. Not only just for myself, but for T&E, for example, or for Preach, for Novel, any other testers that are out there right now. At least 43% of you, which are totally real numbers that I didn't just make up, may have a Twitch Prime sub, that token, to resub to one of your favorite broadcasters, content creators, right now. And if you don't know what Twitch Prime is, there's a link down below. Talks to you about Amazon Prime, Twitch Prime. You get that free monthly sub that you can give to one of your content creators that you enjoy their content. So please check if you have one available. Assassination Rogue. Let's go real quick over some fundamental things here. This is probably one of the least changed specs and or potentially class overall in all of my testing. Rogue is sort of a interesting starting point here, because if it's not broke, don't fix it. There are some pain points, which we'll talk about. But the spellbook is all totally junked up for rogues. So if you don't know, you're supposed to have your class tab, which is all your class abilities. These are all on the entire class. And then when you have your spec abilities in the specializations tab. But certain things like mutilate isn't for the other 2 rogue specs. It should be in your assassination tab. But then evasion is on the other rogues, but it's not in the rogue tab. Envenom obviously shares with eviscerate, but that's still only an assassination ability. So it should be whatever. You get the idea. It's kind of scuffed. They're still working on it. Things are being in place. But first thing that I noticed in the overall notes, Cheap Shot awards 1 combo point now. Why? I have no idea. Nerf rogues. But 1 combo point on Cheap Shot. It's 2 right now on live, I believe. Interesting thing here, I read in the database, says that crippling poison was also nerfed, and I couldn't really... I didn't see at rank 2 crippling poison. And we'll get into this, of course, with Outlaw and Subtlety rogues on the next videos, but all rogues have their poisons back now. Only Assassination has deadly poison. So this is supposed to be nerfed, but then you can make it stronger if you have like Master Poisoner or something, but it's still 50%, so I have no idea. But here, I'm going to start doing rogue stuff, so I'm going to put my deadly poison on. I have Leeching Poison talented, because I'm going to go out and do solo stuff, and I'm going to go to the mall or go do Torghast, something like that, right? I'm going to put my crippling poison on, because I may want to kite some mobs and let my Estus Flask essentially heal me up, right? Glug, glug, glug. But what if there's casters, too? Wait a minute. Is that a lethal and 2 non-lethal poisons? This could be a bug. So don't jump for joy too quickly, rogues out there. You can still only have one lethal poison, so wound overrides deadly. Wound has also been changed now to be a stacking poison, where it stacks, I do believe it's 3 times on Outlaw and Subtlety for 5% healing received per stack at 15 for 12 seconds. Whereas for Assassination, you can have 5 stacks. You get a wound poison rank 2 while leveling up. So you can now have 25%. And yes, that does get stronger. With Master Poisoner, it does go up to 6 each stack. So you will have, it says 29. I think it's rounding somewhere. The debuff on a mob says 29%, but it should just be 30. But still, your wound poison is stronger because you can spec into Master Poisoner because you're the poison rogue, right? Obviously, your slow gets stronger. Your poison damage gets stronger if you're deadly poison. Once it's up there with the dot that just applies and goes for it, you get that sort of instant poison effect. And of course, we'll go over poisons on other rogues as well. Numbing poison, though, why it may be bugged is because it actually is a pull out of your PvP mind numbing poison, which is still here. But mind numbing is just that when you have mind numbing poison from deadly or wound on your target, when they cast spells, they just take some nature damage. But numbing poison is a chance, 50% chance to apply the poison, which clouds the mind of your target, slowing their attack speed and casting speed by 15% for 10 seconds. However, on a target dummy or on any mob, if it'll proc, there it goes, it only says casting speed slowed by 15. I'm not entirely sure why. It's very hard to tell if attack speed is being slowed until you dive into logs, but it could just be casting speed. And the attack speed is a remnant or not working properly or NYI or something, or it's going to be a thing. This brings me to a bit of a discussion topic, and I'll sort of summarize this, of course, in the next 2 rogue videos as well, because not everyone's going to watch every single video, so if you're hearing this again, then by all means. Blizzard is making... They're trying to soft touch every class or spec, depending on its relevance or its representation, to bring something to the group or raid environment. Right now, we currently have, obviously, Warlocks that bring Gateway and Healthstones, things of that nature. They're about to bring Curses back as well. We have, obviously, the Demon Hunter debuff and the Monk debuff. We have Shout from Warriors. We have Fort from Priests, and we have Int from Mages. They're not just giving more of those multiplicative flat modifiers, and they also nerfed the 10% Fort, Int, and Shout to 5%. But now it looks like they're trying to put these nudges, these little elbows in your side, like, we don't have this class, but we have this. And I think that's rogues are poison. Obviously, you still have this. You still have freaking Shroud, right? That I'm sure will come back in some different ways. Even though so far the first 2 dungeons we've done, they're kind of like small and linear, and trash packs are 2, 3, 4 mobs big. You can pull more than that, but there's some scary stuff that you just kind of want to like focus on the few mobs you're dealing with, and then you kind of move on. I'm sure there'll be some places where you can use Shroud, but I think a lot of the what would rogues bring, like what's their version of Battle Shout? I think it's poisons. They can have both non-lethals potentially. That may be a huge thing. And the stacking component to wound poison, at least for Assassination, means that there is a huge healing reduction you can place on things if these affect dungeon bosses for Mythic Plus or for raids. Well, not sure. Obviously, the offensive ones will, but does the healing reduction work? Does the snare work on anything that's mattered in that regard? And of course, does the attack speed slow work on big old bosses that swing and hit your tank for half their health? We'll wait to see once this gets a little bit more forward, because obviously this is all subject to change. All rogues also have Shiv. You saw me use Shiv there for a moment. That's the other big change to rogues, is Shiv is back. Now, you see an extra tooltip down there, but this is a little different. Shiv for Outlaw and Subtlety rogues is just the utility component. So it's concentrated versions of both of your non-lethal poisons. So a big crippling poison And Mind Numbing, or Numbing Poison in this case, dispels all enrage effects. Even though I did try it in the dungeon earlier today, and it didn't work. So again, stuff might not be hooked up properly. On Assassination Rogue, you saw, as I did that earlier, Shiv is also rolled in to Toxic Blade. So you get the 20% increased damage taken from the poisons from the Rogue. So that syncs up with Envenom windows, of course, since Envenom gives you the buff to apply poisons more often. So almost every single auto attack applies the instant effect of the deadly poison. That is built in there, which was met with a little bit of erg in chat today, that your Toxic Blade, because it's no longer a talent, as you see here, it's been replaced by Alacrity. More on that in a little bit. Toxic Blade being combined here, whereas Outlaw and Subtlety only have the utility version of the Enrage, Dispel, or the Super Slow, is kind of a sticking point for Assassination, but I think that gets somewhat offset by the fact that, not necessarily, but you can Master Poisoner for a stronger slow, and you have this stronger wound poison, I guess? That's not a very good reason, but it's there, and if you're called upon to have that utility at your disposal, and maybe you can use it in your opener, right? 25-second cooldown, but then when you have to remove an Enrage, removing the Enrage is way more important than your 20% additional damage, because if your tank dies, then you wipe, most of the time. So using it for the utility is way better. It cannot crit. We tried a bajillion different ways to make it crit, so it will never crit with Sealed Fate to give you 2 combo points, though. So it also is really helpful in the rotation. I guess it shouldn't crit, but you can always be sure that, say, if you're at the elusive 4 combo points, right, and you don't have anything else to hit, you can actually just hit Shiv and go into the Envenom window, for example. And then it's okay, because you didn't waste a combo point, and a lot of Assassination Rogues are, for opener-wise, whatever you get potentially on your first couple of abilities, and then you're basically hitting at that 3 to 4 bread. I mean, 3 is easily, but you don't hit anything at 4 unless it's a garrote, right? Garrote, whatever you want to call it, damn it. Put your weirdest pronunciation of garrote in text form in the comments down below. Wrong answers only. Additionally, you'll see Slice and Dice. Every rogue has Slice and Dice now. So Slice and Dice is back for Assassination, which just means more poison damage, which syncs up, of course, with, I'm just hitting buttons right now, syncs up, of course, with the Envenom window. So you get the Envenom window, you get your extra instant poison going, I know it's not instant poison, it's just when Deadly reapplies, it does instant poison damage. Instant poison is only for the other 2 rogues, yada yada. So it's a 50% attack speed steroid, not haste. So that one's interesting. But that also means you have 4 things you can use your combo points on. By default, you have Rupture, Envenom, Slice and Dice, and then Crimson Tempest, which some of you Assassination Rogues out there listening right now might go like, this received in relation to current numbers, it's a 30% buff from BFA to Shadowlands on both the on-hit damage and the dot. If you want to go back and watch the VOD of the dungeon run, I ran 2 different builds, like I said in the opening. I ran Master Poisoner, Subterfuge, and Iron Wire, because it's a dungeon and it's like real pog. Deeper Stratagem, Exsanguinate, and Crimson Tempest for the first half of the dungeon, because there's lots of trash, lots of vampires, and gargoyles, and things, and gorgons, and whatever, right? Running around, doing things. And I was doing a lot of coming out of stealth with triple Subterfuge, Iron Wire garrotes on the 2 or 3 vampires in each pack, following it up with a Fok or 2 into a Crimson Tempest, into an Exsanguinate. Over the course of the entire dungeon, like I said before, I only use this for the first up to the 2nd boss, so the later half of the other 2 bosses and middle part of the entire weird cathedral was all a different build. It was my 4th source of damage over the course of the run, after I stopped even using it. So it could be a contender to come back in the rotation. It depends on if it is strong enough to be woven into the single target rotation, not sure about that one. But for having the ability to sort of help burst down ads in AoE, because obviously Crimson Tempest by default lasts as long as it lasts, having that extra ability to chunk down targets with the triple Garrote into Crimson Tempest, into Exsanguinate, and these are subterfuge Garrotes, so they're like pretty good. This could be a thing. It felt fine. After that, we switched over to a more sort of standard build, if you will, which is just Vigor and Alacrity, Poison Bomb, Blindside, which felt fine. Also felt fine for the core straight up bosses, which brings me, of course, to Blindside. This is now woven in to be a little more seamless. It's just that Mutilate now has a chance, 20% chance, to make your next ambush free and usable without stealth. The chance will increase to 40% if the target is in execute range. And by default, let's go over here. It's ambush is in this one, but not in Rogue, but Mutilate's, again, ridiculous. Mutilate does have, of course, the synergy with Seal Fate that it could be 2 crits, giving you 4 combo points. So totally a thing. But its physical damage is less than 300. An ambush is 576 at currently my level almost 51. What am I, 51? 50. So it's only 2 combo points by default, which is the same as a default Mutilate. If it crits, it'll give you 3, but it's free. I definitely said I have fun with Blindside. That was feedback that came up in chat about that used to be baseline way back in the day, which sure, I understand. But just to get some procs going here, and to show how sort of fast the rotation gets, let's get the poison window going there, and let's hope that it didn't crit. It did. Wasted combo points because I'm bad. Doesn't matter. Just trying to see if I can get some procs. Blindside procs, baby. There we go. Wham! Refresh that. Poison bomb. Oh, okay. Okay, then. Garrote. This one. Both my slice and they sat. Need to refresh it? Maybe not. Why not? Go for it. It obviously only happens so often, and the target dummy, I'm not going to lower its health enough for it to, go into the execute range. But, yeah, that was a perfect one. There's that. There's that. How about we put one of these up? Do one of these. Do one of those. Hit one of these. A little faster now. Look at that. Bam. Another one of these. How about 2 more of those? Wait a moment. Slice and dice. Garrote. Risk it. Risk it. Oh, it crit. Oh, and it procced. Oh, I wasted combo points. You hate to see it. But it adds just enough. Elaborate planning right now is pretty huge on live. I get it. But obviously the game is changing again. So, and combat is like awkwardly not slower. And obviously rogues are locked at a 1-second GCD. So they can't go any faster or slower. But it just, the pacing of what you're doing in Shadowlands so far, because we're learning it right now. We're not just like, oh, it's the same dungeon again we've done it a million times. It does feel like the game pacing is slower. So elaborate planning is a little bit strange to work in. Obviously, it has different synergies with things like Night Stalker or Subterfuge or Master Assassin. Master Assassin, elaborate planning with some, Vanish shenanigans. But then Vanish shenanigans, like I brought up before, is like the Night Stalker deeper stratagem potential with the Exsanguinate big Rupture. The 6-point Vanish Rupture. Well, you would Garrote Night Stalker. Well, you'd Night Stalker Rupture, Garrote into Exsanguinate. You know how to do this better than I do. And then that's like huge burst window, right? Putting up 6-point, 5% increased damage Rupture, blasting it with that. So there's something there. But I had fun playing with 2 different builds. It was pretty okay. Again, I wish I could have removed the Enrage, which didn't work for some reason. But this is a thing. Hidden Blades is a pain point. It's a meme. It's like a PvP meme where you have Master Assassin and you have Hidden Blades stacked up in PvP and you come out of stealth with, a big old fan of knives. Just blast some people with AoE, but its practical use is really eh. Venom Rush is just the Mutilate refunds 5 energy when used on a poison target. It just makes it cost 45 instead of 50. Obviously, a big part of rogues. A big part of rogues. There's a lot of decisions are made. I mean, first off, I would assume by the what you're doing, Mythic Plus PvP rating. But a lot of it comes down to it's like damage per energy and damage per energy, factoring combo points, damage per combo points, all this kind of stuff, right? Because you have 2 limited resources and you have a little bit of randomness because of Sealed Fate and how fast you get that randomness, but you always use things not always at 5 combo points, but you try to shoot for it, but you don't have it. You know, all the rogue nonsense, right? So that's Vigor, Alacrity, huge. I'm a fan of the deeper stratagem playing with like pooling more on like bigger combo points. And I had fun doing it with Crimson Tempest. Marked for Death is a strange one right now because it actually looks like it makes, and I know this is kind of like bad rogue play, but because we have Slice and Dice back and it's a huge auto attack amp for poison, Marked for Death allows you to never have to put any energy or combo point building into recasting Slice and Dice. Or, of course, you can Mark for Death with the buffed Crimson Tempest if it's worth it. Or you can Mark for Death something, start a Crimson Tempest into an Exsanguinate on a pull, and once something dies, Mark for Death comes back, so you can use Mark for Death again to Crimson Tempest into the next pack. Or the same pack that has a lot of health gets fortified, you know, something like that. But otherwise, I was doing some goofy stuff like this because it doesn't break stealth. So you're sort of already in. Right? And you already have your Slice and Dice up. You don't have to wait to open. You're already going. Like, oh, I just missed that Toxic Blade window. So you're already in, right? You don't have to worry about it. And then once Mark for Death comes back up, that's your sign. Should have done that. That's your sign to Mark for Death, Slice and Dice. I don't know. There's math there, right? That's why I did the whole like re-math rogues thing, because I don't know how it works. That's bad. It gives you free Slice and Dice refreshes, essentially. So you never put any energy or combo points into refreshing Slice and Dice. So all you do is just Rupture, Envenom, Envenom, Rupture, Envenom, Envenom. Mark for Death, Slice and Dice. Rupture, Envenom, Envenom. You know, go back and forth. You already got Alacrity feeding you haste. So do you need Vigor? Right, this stacks up to currently, could get nerfed, might be too strong because Venom Rush is poo-poo and Exsanguinate's really niche. But Alacrity, I could see it being nerfed, but right now, once you get that stacked up, that is still 10% haste. That's an extra 1 energy per second. If I recall, it's 11 energy per second baseline. Every 10% haste is 1 additional energy per second. I believe that's how energy works. I don't have any add-ons, so I can't bring up Narcissus, which has like the huge, crazy, awesome character panel that shows you energy regeneration. But there's things here. The weak pain points are like Venom Rush, Hidden Blades, Exsanguinates being niche. Everything else, utility-wise, huge, right? Rogue is still Rogue. The last thing I want to close on before we wrap this up is you got back Slice and Dice. You got back Shiv. So the normalization, of course, there with like things with ambush or rupture or evasion. 2 things. Cloak of Shadows didn't get nerfed. It's still in its 2-minute cooldown form. But Crimson Vial got changed. It's 20 energy, down from 30. It's 20% of your maximum health, which is down from 30. It's over 4 seconds, down from 6. So it's a somewhat weaker heal, but it heals you faster, and it's cheaper. I don't know if that's a nerf or not. It kind of is, and it kind of isn't. Because you get the health back you need at the moment you need it faster, but it's less of it, but it's also not taking away as much DPS from you because it's only 20 energy. There's that one. And then a lot of the talk today in the comments and the conversation was, where's Gouge? Here's the trade, still vanish. I thought we were supposed to get unpruned. No, that's not Gouge. Channel stars do it. No, that's not it either. Don't know where it is. Maybe it's not coming back. But that was definitely up there. Where is Gouge? But thank you very much for listening. Again, check if your Twitch Prime is ready to put on my channel, to put on T&E's channel, put on Nobble's channel, Preach's channel, whoever you're watching right now, covering a whole lot of this madness, a lot of the Shadowlands testing. There's so much to go over, so much to see. Sub Rogue is next, then Outlaw Rogue. Got some Shaman videos coming up first, though. If you're watching this like right when it comes out, or no, they just came out. I'm talking about the future from the past right now. I'm confusing myself, but that's that. All the links are down below in the description box, of course, for the channel guide where everything is coagulated, where all of the VOD stuff is. If you want to watch the dungeon run, I did the dungeon run with Wordup, pretty fun. And do more with him because he just got access. But enough of me rambling. That's it. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you all in the sub video, which I'm sure will go really well.